I saw this tweet yesterday that was clipped by Deadly Headley, and it says Dairy Queen's gonna put Xbox fans out of their misery by checks notes funding more Game Pass content. So he clips a tweet from Twitter user Kieran and said, "Can't stand racing games." To an extent, I almost want to say I cheers. He said, "I'm going to buy this just to speed the process up and put these last remaining delusional Xbox fans out of their misery." Now, I got to tell you, I had a small chat with this Kieran individual just to kind of test and see what they're about. And I can tell you, this person is only here for some console war of their own imagination. You see, there were some conversations that went down, and I was wondering what this person is about because, his big thing is everything Xbox bad and whatever it is, this original position, that he holds. And when he was talking about it, Xbox players don't buy games and blah, 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 blah. I remember the interaction was just like yesterday. I then asked him a very interesting question. It was a simple one. But when you ask a question like that and somebody who is so vocal stays quiet, then you've basically put them in a very interesting position. I put them in between a rock and a hard place. I got no reply. That's literally how perhaps maybe I'm not, relevant enough to be worth a reply from him, or maybe his own answer would have backfired so spectacularly and exposed, the intellectual dishonesty that he has engaged in all this while. So, do you want to know what question I asked him? I'm sure you're curious. Well, I'll show you here. Let's go ahead and look at the whole interaction. This was January 15th. It was last month. Out of nowhere, he says, Xbox seems to be running out of lives and on the verge of being shut down consistently. Maybe it's time you Xbox fans, fanboys, wash your hands in your pockets and bought a game. So, again, like I told you, the original position of Xbox bad, Xbox is about to die, Xbox players don't buy games. And so I said, as a PC gamer, I can say with a full level of confidence that you're clearly lying to yourself. And then I said, I have time today. I think for some reason, it was a slow day. So I said, you know what, let's get into it. Let's test out, the fortitude of some of these PlayStation fanboys and see what they're about. He said, what am I lying about? I said two things. Number one, Xbox seems to be running out of lives. How? Number two, implies Xbox gamers don't buy games. Says who? And then he said, being on the verge of shutdown twice, if those conversations keep happening, eventually it will be out of lives. So these conversations that are happening, when we tested and looked at them, it's all fugazi, right? Because all the way back as, when Satya Nadella first was, given the position, he literally said that they were doubling down and committing on Xbox. And them spending more money is literally now the next approach where they want to spend Sony out of business. If those emails that were sent during and revealed during the FTC trial has any element of truth to it. Now, even though the case, they say, well, at that time, we didn't want to pursue that. That was not what we're doing. And then they come and spend $70 billion. Their actions are speaking something different. And it says the example of Game Pass. Or do you think Microsoft wanted to rent games instead of selling them out of the goodness of their hearts? You see, I can't make out a lot of coherence here, to be very honest, ladies and gentlemen, because again, you see, a lot of times these folk will spaz out a bunch of stuff. It just like that podcast video that I just did. I now know what's going on. And then I said, so it's predicated on the conversation. So no basis in any data or evidence, even leaks, nothing. And then number two, Game Pass. I can't seem to make out what you're implying. Are you saying Xbox gamers aren't buying games? That was the bait. And then he said, Xbox gamers don't buy games. If they did, Game Pass wouldn't exist. And I said, why does PlayStation block games from going to Xbox? What effect do they want money hatting to create? And then he said, they want people to buy PlayStations and buy software from their PlayStations. That's why. And I replied, oh, so these Xbox gamers who you claim don't buy games before Game Pass are going to go buy games on PlayStation. Didn't hear a single word afterwards. If you just engage from a logical perspective, you'll bear these folk naked intellectually and expose that they're not here to understand the truth from a gaming conversational perspective. I've noticed a trend and a pattern. I've noticed a theme. They will not answer critical questions that if you were to even go ahead and ask a 5-year-old, and say, hey, man, what do you think about this? A 5-year-old will have a very solid answer for you. And I think this is where a lot of the nonsense is coming from. You know, they're just so comfortable saying nonsense. No one has checked them. And I almost want to say I blame you Xbox players for not checking these cats and saying, guys, let's have a conversation, sit down over some beers and say, tell me what your whole shtick is about. And ensure that they cannot get away with intellectually dishonest positions. That's how you deal with it. Another one was very interesting yesterday. Nib95 posted something. It was very interesting. He said a reply to somebody else's comments yesterday. He was saying something about while Xbox, and I'll show you here. While Xbox, Play Anywhere stuff is going to be useful for a niche demographic, can you imagine somebody who's pretty much saying that cloud saves that's free, that's transferable to PC, is niche, while PlayStation that he supports charges you for it? Right, it's niche. All right, no problem. Demographic for consumers who bounce between PC and console. It's not these tertiary things that push console hardware. Don't worry. The moment people open their eyes, you see Sean Layden talking about FOMO. The moment people open their eyes and realize that they're being scarfed by PlayStation left and right, hand over fist, basically getting their money, they're going to move to a value proposition that's better than PlayStation. They don't have to move to Xbox. They can come over to PC. Let's keep going. Guys, the chess game is so pretty, man. I'm just watching everybody just run around this chessboard, and I'm just laughing. He said it's not the tertiary things that push console hardware. It's the games and exclusives first and foremost. He says both Nintendo and PlayStation CEO, blah, 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 blah. Nib's going to write a whole bunch of stuff. And somebody replied and said exclusives don't sell consoles anymore. This has been shown time and time again. With PlayStation is more generational sales, and with Nintendo, because, the majority of games focus on children and family and entertainment. That's, I think that's actually true. He says, what on earth are you talking about? The two consoles with exclusives constantly chatting in both monthly year-to-date charts are the ones dominating the console market share. I feel like some of you live in an alternate reality. No, Nib, I feel like you live in an alternate reality because I replied to your post and I said, correction, only one console has exclusives. Carry on. That's it. And how do I know this? Well, as a PlayStation player myself, I can look at my PlayStation library on PlayStation and then look at my PlayStation library on PC and say, there's no such thing as an exclusive here with my PlayStation 5. The only platform and console right now that has exclusives is PlayStation. So this is where I see the convergence. That's why PlayStation players, whenever someone who plays on PC speaks, the hyper fanboys, they close their ears. La, 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 la. I don't want to hear anything. So that they can be convenient to lambast Xbox. This is why the conversation is now changing, especially in this year, where we're now getting more and more into the deep parts of how the cognitive dissonance and mental gymnastics has basically made its way through the gaming conversation, not checked all of this while. And more, I think, like I said, this is where we're going to start shaping the content. We're going to be examining under a microscope as much as we can if these intellectual, statements can hold any water or if they're just false. And so far, from what I'm seeing, I really am not seeing any resistance. I mean, I thought this was going to be, challenging. I thought this was going to be a fight. It's not. So it leads me to a conclusion that it's either these folk know the truth and are just maybe obfuscating it on purpose, or they're simply just not aware and refuse to be aware. Either way, the intellectual dishonesty on both sides tells me that on the base level, they can fix their, thinking and follow where the data and evidence leads and refuse to. That's why I see many people tell me, you can't change the minds of a lot of these folk. And to be honest, I'm not trying to change their minds. I'm trying to just show what they're about. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.